Hey, how's it going?
Hey Alejandro, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. Good to see that you're well.
It's been a rough week, 2 weeks or so. I've been
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. I,
yeah,
I'm hoping your family is safe and such.
yeah. They're doing well. Me and my partner were out marching. Was it not this most recent Saturday, but the Saturday before?
Right.
Um, well, both Saturdays we were marching, but on that Saturday, I nearly got run over by a police cruiser.
Are you serious?
Yeah, on Flatbush. They like it went through a bunch of protesters. And this was not the one that went viral. But that was part of the same march. But
Right, right, but it's not the one that, but oh my goodness.
yeah, and then we got charged at on Tilden and or like at no, it was actually at Bedford and Church. The police just
Church.
charged us like we were like peacefully marching and then they just like ran in there with batons.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I don't know why they I mean, I get that that's what their orders are to maintain law and order but a lot of the tactics are excessive and unnecessary. It's kind of
Completely unnecessary. They escalated the situation, and then like
right.
afterwards, everybody was so upset and like destroying police cars. But
Exactly. It's just I don't yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's running the situation, but I hear a lot of the anagram that if you're a hammer, everything appears to be a nail, and
exactly,
it's this is what we're doing. So I think though that you should the public safety meeting tomorrow
yeah, I'm going to
potentially
bring it up. I already spoke with Warren about it.
got it. Okay, good.
And additionally, last what was it? It was I think it was Thursday night. There was a huge, there was a ton of protesters marching down Nostrand, and it happened right here, almost right in front of the community board office. The police
Oh,
came in and kettled them. Basically, didn't let them go any further, and then stopped them from behind, and then basically started making mass arrests and they got a state senator, Julius Salazar's comms director was caught up in it. And they arrested two nurses who were walking home from Kings County after shift change.
wow.
Um,
I don't know what point they're trying to prove, but it's not one. I don't. It definitely wouldn't garnish support in my humble opinion.
well, I there wasn't much I could do, because it was happening outside my apartment, and I was like, so I just like took my stereo and I just started blasting NWA "Fuck the Police."
Yeah, nice, nice. No other song captures that moment, that essence.
Yeah, that one and "This Is America," that was surreal.
That is very good. That's a good choice.
Yeah, the cops were not. Some of them were not happy. That was like playing that music at them, and then like on the other side, like a lot of the black cops were nodding their head to it, and I'm like, do you not realize the irony of like I don't know.
It's a complicated situation. I can imagine, even for like black and brown police. I don't even know what they're thinking. I don't know what's going, in their minds right now. So
Walk away because now they're gonna be able to see you. Sorry. Ask them what his name is.
Hello?
yes, hello.
Hi. Um, I'm a new board member, and they had told me about Zoom for the meeting today. This
Yes.
is WebEx.
This is Webex for the Housing Committee, Mr. King. This is Khalid. We spoken earlier. Uh, Here, let me post the details in the chat. Do you have access to this chat? And that way you can just click
Okay,
into
I
it
can
from
go
there.
back over there. Okay, thank you.
All right, give me 1 second to just pull that up for you, okay? But you should have gotten the email earlier today around 10 o'clock in the morning.
And 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, give me one
Okay,
second
hold
to
on.
give you the timestamp.
Um,
10:22.
I don't see anything that early. But anyway, send it to me now, and thank you.
You got it. Give me one.
So I'll close out this one.
If you'd like, you can sit in and listen if you'd like. Put us on mute or some such. But
Okay.
it's
For now, I'll do this and then I'll try that one first. Thank you.
okay. So I just sent it to you in the chat. Wait, did he just leave? Wow. Alejandro, give me 1 second to just make sure I get this information to Mr. King there.
I'll just give it another few minutes and we can get started.
Okay.
Make sure everybody is able to join in. WebEx isn't the most user-friendly as Zoom is.
Right. That's what we've been hearing for the most part. Zoom is a little bit more of a friendly platform, user-friendly platform.
keyboard's gonna file assault charges. Had to lighten up the room. How you doing, guys? My name is Derek. Derek Dunn. I'm just, I guess, sitting in. I think I signed up to possibly join the community.
Oh, welcome, Derek. Actually, why don't we just take this opportunity to go ahead and do some introductions, so that way I can also take down who's also attending the meeting. So my name is Alejandra Caraballo. I'm the Housing Committee Chair. This is my first year serving on the Community Board and on the Housing Committee. Whoever wants to go next can say their name and what their role is on the committee.
Yes, hi, I'm Khalid Nixon, Community Assistant for Brooklyn Community Board 9, staff member.
Hi, I'm Brenna Rabinowitz. I'm on the Housing Committee as well.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Derek Dunn. I guess, as I mentioned, I just signed up, so I'm just curious to see what the housing committee does and what I can do to help.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Pam. I was under the impression that as a member of the public, I could just listen in. So please let me know if that is okay. Thank you.
Yes, Pam, that's okay. All meetings are open to the public.
Hi, I'm Austin. I'm also just listening in as a resident in the area.
Welcome, Austin. Welcome.
Okay. So I had a relatively short agenda for today. I really wasn't sure, what we could cover and who would be available. The Housing Committee has usually been relatively smaller. It's been about consistently 3 to 4 folks every meeting. And so usually the way I like to start off the meetings is just to hear from folks, to see, what's going on in the community, if there's any specific housing issues that they're facing, or anything that their neighbors are facing. I think right now the big kind of issue is COVID. That's kind of prevented us from meeting for the last 2 months, or actually now 3 months. But additionally, the strain that COVID is putting on people's ability to stay in their homes, make rent, especially with high unemployment, potentially the loss of family members, all of those issues. So if anyone wants to share any issues that they've seen or they're experiencing, or anything like that, please feel free to at this time. I really want to kind of get a sense of what's going on in the community.
This is Alicia. I tried to get onto the WebEx, but it seems to be freezing me out. So I know there was a discussion about the possibility of us doing WebEx again, but really this is not a very good platform. I've had quite a number of problems with this particular platform. And so here again, I am in this situation. So I just wanted to note that for the record, Khalif, if you can make a record of that Khalif, are you there?
I'm there. I'm listening. Go ahead, Alicia.
Okay, yeah, just that, this platform is really it's a very difficult platform. I don't know why.
Right, I understand. We've been getting a number of complaints about such, and I'll make sure to relay that over to me and Fred, especially since I don't know if it's been explained previously, but the WebEx service that we're using, it is more so like an umbrella service offered via Borough Hall. So not only Brooklyn Community Board 9, but the other Brooklyn Community Boards are using WebEx as their virtual platform. But of course, we have leeway in terms of Zoom or other, depending on if the chair feels more comfortable with the platform and such. But I'll definitely, bring that to Mia and Fred's attention when I get the chance.
Yeah, I found that the Zoom platform is a little bit easier for whatever reason.
Okay.
I don't get frozen out. My video works.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I do see the error message over your account, something about bandwidth and conditions. I see that. Okay.
yeah. So anyway, just to talk about some of the conditions, some of the issues as far as housing is concerned. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a major rent strike that's happening in the community. A lot of people are unable to pay their rent. And so there's a lot of issues going around that, especially in light of the fact that statistically speaking, people of color have had a disproportionately on the lower economic strata from beginning, and now that as businesses are picking up, we still are on the lower end as far as getting jobs. So there's been some major rent striking that's happening, and then there's also been some push for legislation to deal with protecting residents in the community from this onslaught of not being able to pay one's rent.
Can I chime in a moment?
Yeah, of course.
I was just going to remind everyone on the call that the New York City HRA, the Department of Social Services HRA, that if you call 311 and you say that you're having trouble paying your rent, there is money that many people qualify for that will help keep people in their apartments. There's even some money, you can even sometimes qualify if you're a homeowner, but there's definitely cash assistance for many people who are trying to pay their rent. I believe there's even something that came out of Albany that allows one to use security deposit because of the COVID emergency. But there's definitely cash assistance that many people qualify for through HRA if you call 311.
So just to be clear, you're talking about HRA. Could you give me the acronym for that, please?
Human Resource
Sure.
Association.
Acronym. What's the name? And
Yes,
and what's the name of the program underneath HRA?
It's emergency cash assistance, which is commonly known as one-shot deals, but they're not one-shot. And HRA is the city's social service agency, and you can call 311, or in this neighborhood, you can call CAMBA and find out about emergency cash assistance.
Well, the one-shot deal was normally pertaining to court-related cases, and so that program was available to people is actually welfare. So how is this different than the one-shot deal? Or is it really the same program?
It is a one-shot deal. I don't work for HRA, but it is what is commonly known as one-shot deals, and they are emergency cash assistance to help people pay their rent. And obviously, no one can go into an office these days, but if any tenant wants to call 311, they can find out if they qualify.
Even without a court-related action?
I believe so, because there are no court-related actions right now.
Exactly. So that's why I'm just asking, just to be clear. So HRA
I
is
don't believe,
doing,
yeah, I don't believe anyone needs a court-related action right now. It's because of COVID emergency.
okay, okay. Okay, so HRA 311, cash emergency, one-shot deal. Thank you.
I think I'll go ahead and take the opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the actions taken by both Governor Cuomo and the city in response to the housing crisis that has been brought on by COVID. In particular, there is the housing moratorium or the eviction moratorium that's been done by executive order by Andrew Cuomo. It's been extended through August 20th. However, it's not a blanket eviction moratorium beginning. It was extended from June 20th to August 20th. However, the eviction moratorium is only for folks who can show that it was COVID related or they are currently receiving unemployment. So that creates a bit of a problem for some folks because it creates a burden on them to have to prove that their non-payment of rent is due to COVID or due to a job loss or that they're receiving unemployment, which could still require them to go to court. The housing court will be opening up next week. So as far as next week, housing court will begin hearings again, and they'll start to accept filings. So people may start to receive notices of eviction proceedings. So there may be some confusion. People may think that there's an eviction moratorium, but it doesn't prevent landlords from filing for eviction in courts while the moratorium is in place. And so folks may still need to show up in court, and this will present quite a few challenges because some folks may be immunocompromised or may be particularly susceptible to COVID. And even going to court, particularly how cramped housing court is, it could present an immediate health risk to some folks. So I'm not entirely sure at this point how quickly the housing court machinery will spin up, how fast they'll send out notices, and when they'll start scheduling housing court dates for any new filings that come in. That's something that I'll try and get more information on and update folks once housing court is back up. But the more immediate thing is that folks may start receiving those eviction proceeding notices, and that may start to create unease and really freak a lot of people out, especially since there may be confusion around the moratorium. One of the bright sides of being in this community board is that the zip code 11225 is under the right to counsel funding from the city council. So anybody who lives in the zip code of 11225, which covers parts of Crown Heights, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, and a little bit of Flatbush, if they meet the income requirements, are entitled to an attorney through the legal services to represent them in their eviction proceedings. So there is a bit of a fortunate aspect in that there is that backstop and that funding available, so that if anybody is put in eviction proceedings, they have right to counsel if they live in 11225. Unfortunately, that's not going to stop any of the eviction proceedings from going forward, but it would at least allow people access to an attorney so that they can seek stays or rescheduling if they are unable to attend due to health-related reasons or fear for their safety and or their own personal health due to their susceptibility to COVID, particularly for our senior citizens. So there have been a lot of resources that have been put out recently. I haven't been able to get a chance to compile them all, but things will probably start to move a little quicker next week. when the courts open back up. What I'm going to attempt to do is get some information together to have for one of the newsletters that go out on Friday to send out, and so to make sure, and then maybe potentially if any of the other committee members want to try and help and organize a town hall within the next few weeks or a week or two, discussing what's going to happen with the housing courts reopening. This is an especially scary time for folks. It's been a trying few months, and the last thing that anybody needs is to receive an eviction notice. So I'm going to attempt to see what I can do on my end as committee chair, and I hope I can get some help from the fellow committee members as well.
Alejandra, can you hear me?
Yes.
Migdalia.
Hi, Migdalia.
Hi. I just wanted to comment on the rent because I had gotten, I believe it was from Eric Adams, I'm not sure, but according to what he was saying is that now you can use your security to pay for your rent if you're behind your rent. So landlords know that, it's public knowledge. Maybe you should go on Eric Adams' website and check that out. Also, there was supposed to be a bill coming out that was going to address any rentals, any rentals any renter that had any money. There was supposed to be an emergency rent relief act. I'm reading it now, and that was back in May. So I would check with Eric Adams and de Blasio's website. But I believe I'm reading something in my emails that said that now you can use your security if you're behind your rent. So you shouldn't be, no one should, I mean, if you get a dispossessed notice or whatever, you can fight that, but no one should be having any problems. Because, I mean, if you address this with your landlord beforehand, that you were there was an emergency, it's just like you do with your credit cards. You call them up, you let them know that you have a hardship right now because of the COVID, and they give you a forbearance for mortgagers and for renters. That's something that you can start, checking out tomorrow, as well as HRA. They do have the one-shot deal. I haven't heard about it for this, but it may be possible. You can get in touch with Canva. They're doing a lot for housing for the renters. Okay.
Thank you, Migdalia. Yeah, one of the you can use the security deposit as an emergency way to pay for a month's rent, but it does require that the security deposit has to be replenished within 90 days, and it's not a cure-all for some folks. It helps if you have an immediate 1 month. You can't make payment for 1 month. But if you have multiple months that you're unable to make payments, that could be a problem because it has to be paid back within 90 days.
Okay.
The thing that I foresee, and one of the biggest issues that I foresee happening is at the end of July, the CARES Act funding expires. So folks who have been receiving unemployment since March get an additional $600 per week from the CARES Act. And so for some folks, they were actually making more money than they were beforehand, and others were actually able to keep the same amount of income. Starting in August, the CARES Act funding expires, and so people will start earning only the unemployment baseline. So their incomes will go down significantly, and then on August 20th, the moratorium will expire. So one of my concerns is that basically at the end, in the middle of August, when folks aren't able to make rent because they're not getting their full unemployment and they're not getting the extra amount from the CARES Act, and then the moratorium expires, there's just going to be a flood of litigation going into the housing courts to evict folks. And I'm extremely concerned. And so, I think this is something that we should probably try and continue meeting over the summer Khalid, is it possible for the housing committee to continue meeting over the summer to continue discussing these issues?
Absolutely, especially with especially if anybody's having a problem with any renters having any issue with rent or mortgages for that matter. I think at this point we need to continue to meet. I mean, I don't know how anybody feels, but I think this is a very concerning time. We don't know one day to the next. We need to meet. We don't need to enjoy staying home or anything else. We need to meet right now. That's how I feel. This is dire right now. Dire moments.
Hey, Alejandro, right. And I just wanted to jump in terms of, meetings being conducted over the summer, I will let that it's always at the discretion of the chair, and then he will, of course, let you know, of course, what he would deem appropriate. And I think it would be appropriate to keep continuing to have meetings even during our recess. I do want to let you know that we do have elections coming up, and you're aware of that. Um, you know, the paradigm might change, or at least the structure with the community board might change between now and July. So I will definitely bring up your inquiry with Fred and Mia just to run that by them and see what would be most appropriate. But most definitely, yeah.
I just think it's going to be extremely vital at this point because I think, the last 3 months, there's just been kind of a pause button with the moratorium and folks getting the CARES Act funding. But I think, right when we're gone over the summer, things may start getting dire.
Absolutely.
So I'll make note of that and inform Fred and Mia, especially of the urgency and the nature of the current conditions.
Apologies. Okay. Was there anything anybody else wanted to go ahead and bring up? Any issues that they've seen? Any other resources that they can think of for the community? Anything else they want to say for the meeting?
How is that with the rent stabilization or the loss of rent? How is that affecting the commercial businesses? So that's the one thing that we need. Finances coming in back into the community. The local mom and pops, a lot of startups on Nostrand Avenue, for example. How does that affect them? I know there's committees for housing, but how does that affect like commercial businesses and things like that as well?
Yeah, I believe the initial moratorium was also for commercial tenants. And I'm not entirely sure about the extension and how that applies to commercial tenants. But I do know it is going to be one of those scenarios where it's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma where, if it's actually in the best interest of these landlords to actually just take it on the chin and, not let all of these restaurants and other places like be forced out for non-payment for the last 3 months. Because if they all evict all of these businesses, there's going to be a ton of empty storefronts that will stay empty for, potentially years.
I agree.
And not to mention 50% of real estate in New York, commercial, is just restaurants and bars. And so essentially, you could see an era where like basically all of our storefronts are going to be empty. So it makes more sense. But unfortunately, the individual incentive for them is to try and evict folks. And I don't know if they're going to have a bigger kind of, out of the box moment where they, think outside of just their own situation. But that is something that will potentially also affect people in the community, because there are people that own, a 2 or 3 story building, maybe on Nostrand, and the first floor is a store or a restaurant, and that could affect their income and ability to stay in their home if they have a mortgage. So, there will be trickle down effects, and, I'm unsure of exactly how this is going to impact them. I know businesses in the community are really under strain. You know, even if they haven't been able to have anybody in their businesses, and then even if they deliver through Seamless or Grubhub or any of these other apps, they're losing money by paying, you know, these outrageous fees to these delivery apps. So, you know, while it's a little tangential to housing, I think it still affects our community and, you know, could have a lot of terrible effects on the broader community.
Okay. Correct. Thank you.
Yeah. I will say one of the things that I have seen in the last month or two is that rents are actually starting to decrease for once, because a lot of people are leaving the city. And a lot of people are,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
It's a large exodus.
Yes.
And a lot of people won't be coming back. And New York City may actually be under, you know, may actually experience population loss going forward. You know, and there's knock-on effects of that on the tax base, the ability for New York City to fund a lot of these programs. But that being said, you know, if there is some kind of silver lining to this, is that maybe for once rents will start to come back down to earth. You know, I'd hate to that be at the expense of losing residents and people being forced out. But that's a reality that we're dealing with. So.
Sorry, and I just wanted to follow on Derek's previous inquiry about businesses, commercial spaces, rent. You know, we are having our Economic Development Committee meeting this coming Monday on the 15th for 7 p.m. and a similar virtual platform. So I'll share those details in the chat just now for everybody. If you'd be interested in, you know, bringing up this inquiry with the Economic Development Committee, I will say that worked with the Health and Social Services Committee earlier, or at least earlier in May, we distributed face masks. You know, the main Kingston Avenue, Utica Avenue, Flatbush Avenue, and we gave, you know, each commercial business that was open and that was viable, like, you know, a restaurant or such, one box of face masks. But I guess, you know, what we could have inquired at that time, if anything, or conduct a survey in terms of, you know, how's the rent situation and such. So maybe that can be an inquiry you can posit to the Economic Development Committee on Monday if you're interested in attending.
I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
All right. Give me 1 second to just post those details in the chat.
Alejandro, this is Yanela. Hi. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I wanted to know for corporators, because I'm in a co-op and facing the same issue with people not working, they're furloughed, and so with their carrying charges, which, you know, they don't pay rent. What would you suggest? Because we probably will have to go to housing court as well.
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult situation because in the co-op situation that could end up if a significant number of people don't pay their rent in a co-op, the mortgage payments may not be able to be made, and then the entire co-op could theoretically end up being foreclosed on. So you know that's I honestly don't have any immediate advice or any kind of suggestions. Honestly, it's going to have to be up to each individual co-op board on how they manage the situation, the particular situation that they're in. You know, co-op owners are under the same stress, and it's just a difficult situation all around.
Thank you.
Hello, I do have a comment and a question. I know that there's this assumption that because homeowners have forbearance, that somehow that means that, you know, we don't have to pay. However, that's not true. It just means exactly, and that's the issue is, and each
you have to pay.
How you pay is determined by the lender, the bank, the bank. So the bank makes the decision whether or not, makes the decision of how you should pay. So the forbearance is only a stalling. It's just like, okay, for 3 months you do not have to pay, but you still have to, you still owe the money.
Right.
And so after the 3 months, you know, some banks are saying, okay, well, after the 3 months, you now have to pay the entire 3 months that you now owe. Some are saying that you could put it back at the end of your mortgage, but nobody is indicating under what conditions. Nobody's saying how you could qualify. The banks are refusing to give homeowners any indication of, you know, whether or not that's something that they can do. And so the concern should not just be for renters, but it also should be for homeowners, because a lot of homeowners, especially in this community, depend upon renters to help them pay their rent. So if renters are not paying their, you know, their portion of the rent, then they can't pay their mortgage payments. And then this idea of forbearance is only a stall tactic, is not necessarily. So I just wanted to go back to the HRA. Are you sure it is for homeowners and not just tenants?
Can I have a moment?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
And there's an opportunity to ask some questions as well.
I don't know. Am I able to speak for a moment?
It's okay, I got it. No problem, I got it. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, did you get my question? Is somebody going to answer my question?
Can I be heard? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, I was just going to say that in addition to, I'm pretty sure that a homeowner under certain circumstances can also receive emergency cash assistance, but I would urge any homeowner who is in distress about their mortgage to call 311 and ask to be connected to the Center for New York City Neighborhoods. Or in this neighborhood, you could call directly to NHS of Flatbush on Church Avenue, who's a partner of CNYCN. But any owner who calls 311 and says, I'm having trouble with my mortgage, will be connected to the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, and they will work with them specifically with their own servicer, with their bank, to see if they've got the kind of loan that, you know, where the feds have the Fed has actually made certain you know, loans that they own have certain assistance to homeowners, but depending, as the speaker said, it depends on who the servicer is, who the mortgage holder is, the particular circumstances of that owner, but they should definitely call NHS of Brooklyn, thank you, the one on Church Street, or just call 311 and ask for the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, of which NHS Brooklyn is a part.
Center for, I'm sorry, it's the Center for what?
New York City Neighborhoods. It's a long name, I'm afraid.
No, it's okay.
But NHS of Brooklyn is one of the partner agencies, as are Legal Aid and Legal Services and many other agencies. They all provide free assistance to homeowners in distress.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Can I just say, I'm a homeowner, and I called in the very beginning when everything happened and let my mortgager know that I may not be able to pay my rent through my mortgage, and they gave me a forbearance, and they will put that money, like you said, at the back end of my loan. Fortunately, I was able to pay my loan, my mortgage, rather, so that you have a conversation with your mortgager.
As I stated before, I've talked to several people in my community because I'm a community activist. So I've spoken to my neighbors, and everybody has a different story because the lender has a different policy. So it all depends upon the lender, and no one has told me or had given me information that the lender has been specifically clear about whether or not they are entitled to money in the back end. It seems to be something that they are not making a commitment to. They're basically saying it's available, but we're not sure if you will qualify. And then they will not, and they have refused to give what would be the qualifications. So this would be something, obviously, that maybe our congressperson should be looking into as these bills become due. Under what conditions should the banks, give this option? Because banks don't really want to give that particular option, because then they don't, when you put it in the back end of your mortgage, they really don't benefit from it. But again, there's no clear directive. Most people do have Fannie Mae or Fannie Mac backed mortgages, so the banks and the lenders have to adhere to this forbearance. But again, it's their option of, what they will provide for you. You can get the forbearance, but as far as payback or in the back end, again, it's up to the lenders, and they are not being clear about it. Also, I wanted to say one other thing, that a lot of the elected officials are doing town hall meetings around rent and rent issues. So I know that, Alex, you were talking about possibly having CP9 or the housing chair or the housing committee do one. It might be a good thing to possibly partner up with one of the electeds, because I know that several town hall meetings have already occurred around this issue, and I'm sure, as you know, in August, when a lot of these protections are lifted, there's going to be a strong interest in people really trying to find out what their rights are and what they can do. So I would suggest that the housing committee reach out to the electeds and find out if maybe there could be a collaboration on doing a town hall meeting, a virtual one, obviously.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to be looking into. I'll try and reach out to Assemblymember Diana Richardson's office, and then Zelnor Myries as well. I know right now they've both been, their offices have been quite focused on repeal of 50A, which is the police reform bill. But I'm going to see if I can reach out to them later this week and see if we can start to put something together, because I know with housing court reopening next week, this could get more urgent as folks actually start to receive eviction proceeding notices. Is there anything anybody else wanted to add?
There, can I be heard?
Yes, of course.
Great. There's an excellent flyer in many, many languages that was produced by the mayor's office to protect tenants. And so I will forward that to the community board tomorrow.
Can I just ask who you are? I came, I kept getting bumped off.
Sure. My name is Pam, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Education for the department, HPD. And I live in.
I'm sorry, you broke up again. You are part of HPD?
Right. Right. And I happen to live in. Hi. I live in the community, and I just thought I would listen in for the first time, but obviously I ended up talking.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you. You just broke all up. Can you say that again, please?
Sure. I'm the Director of Outreach and Education at the Housing Department, and I happen to live in the neighborhood, so I thought I would listen into this committee meeting.
And your name, ma'am?
Pam Glazer.
So you're the director of the housing department at HPD?
No. I'm the director of the Education and Outreach Unit.
Education and Outreach
Yes.
Unit.
And I'm going to pass along to the community board the mayor's office to protect tenants. They just put out a very good flyer reviewing tenant rights in the time of COVID. So I'm just going to forward that to the community board tomorrow.
Much appreciated, Pam. Do you have our office email, or do you?
No, I'd love that. I was just going to go to your website and look it up, but I'd be happy to take it.
I'll just put in the chat for everybody here.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's a question. I understand, you know, a lot of everybody's is speaking about renters, but is there anything that HPD would be putting out or would be doing, the mayor's office maybe, as it relates to corporators? Co-op owners.
As it relates to cooperators, what I would suggest is that for me, always the best resource for a cooperator is to check on either to check with NHS or to check with UHAB. On the UHAB website, I would think they would be tracking everything that has to do with cooperators. And of course, there's that association of condo and co-op owners in the city. Are you specifically talking about an HDFC or a private co-op?
Mitchell-Lama.
Oh, well, then I would definitely look on the Mitchell-Lama website.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. Unless anybody wanted to add anything else, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. But I'm going to follow up with information once we get clearance either from Fred or some clarification from the exec committee whether or not we can continue meeting into the summer. And then additionally, I'm going to look into reaching out to elected so we can set up a online town hall on housing rights for the next either in the next week or two, especially as the housing courts reopen. Without objection, is there a motion to adjourn the housing meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you all soon, hopefully at either a training or at the next community board meeting. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Goodbye.
Bye.